So, Tom, another big area, of course, that touches all of our lives and probably is one of the biggest reasons why we are here and growing up and doing all that we are doing is, of course, the idea of relationships and relating to each other in the various forms, whether it's parent-child, husband-wife, spouse-spouse, partners, etc. What can you share with us? Because I know you possibly have a book coming out, if I read correctly on your site, called Primal Man and Primal Woman, a discussion of the significance of gender. What can you share with us, maybe as a little prelude to what's to come, or what are your thoughts currently in terms of just why we have gender to begin with?
Gender comes with the evolution and the rule set. We have a rule set, and of course, all things don't have male and female as we do. We're kind of special in our form of animals. There are some that are asexual and just bud, and other cells that just divide. And there's other ways to accomplish that. But basically, building up complex shapes and entities as we are. They tend to be sexual in nature, whether that's, bumblebees or people. The more complex shapes tend to differentiate in cells more, so you end up with sexual differences. So the why we have gender is just an artifact of the rule set and the way our evolution happened to take place. But it's a good area to talk about, and it's a very misunderstood area. And most of us, we'll start with ideas of love. Okay, most of us have fallen in love. Many of us have fallen in love with the person that now we're in a relationship with. And for the most part, this falling in love turns out to be falling in need. We don't really fall in love as much as we fall in need. We have these needs and wants and desires, and we find somebody that satisfies, at least to some extent, those needs and wants and desires of ours, and makes our fears, feel better. Maybe we'll have a fear that we'll be alone, or we have this other kind of fear. So our fears, our beliefs, our needs, our wants get satisfied. So that's a little different than really falling in love. Love is a different thing. Love is about other, not about self. If it's about your needs, then it's not love. It's about need. So if this thing we call in love is about other, if it's really about somebody else, what can you do for them? How can you make them happy? How can you satisfy them? If it's about them, then that's love. If it's about what do I need, to satisfy me? What are my requirements? What do I want to get out of this deal? What are my rights here in this relationship? That's just about need, and it has nothing to do at all with love. So most relationships are probably a combination of love and need. There's some love in there. There's probably a lot more need in there. So these relationships tend to be like contracts, need-based contracts.
Yeah.
You do your part, I'll do my part, and then a little way down the road, it's you're not doing your part, as much as I want you to do your part, and the squabbles and all the rest of it comes. So we have this men are from Mars, women are from Venus problem, where because the different sexes just process information differently. We just interpret things differently. Different things are important to us, and different things are not important to us. So there's this fundamental communication problem between males and females that happens just because we don't see each other's viewpoint very easily, because our own viewpoint is so different than their viewpoint. And we all tend to believe that others see the world as we do. We just see ourselves reflected in other people. So when you hear your husband say something and it bothers you, it's because you're thinking, if I said that, here's what I would have meant. Here's the way I would have felt. You see, you're put in your place. That's the only way you have to interpret. You can't say, well, if somebody else said that, this is what, you're not somebody else.
Right.
You see, so we're all stuck interpreting what everybody says and does in terms of ourself. What would it mean if we said it? And if we did it? If we used that tone, what would that mean? Well, the problem is that's not really what it means most of the time. Between men and women, they're judging it on themselves, and the opposite sex doesn't think, feel, and interpret the way we do. So there's this big problem of communication to begin with. And it's made worse because we don't realize that the other sex doesn't interpret, feel, mean the same thing that we would.
Right.
So we make assumptions and they're wrong. So that's a problem. All right, so about relationship. And I'm going to try to get very much into the application and leave the theory behind, and just what is it that we can do? How is it that we can take a relationship between male and female primarily, but it may be between same-sex people too, because generally they play roles. One of them plays the feminine role, the other one plays the masculine role, and they tend to interact in that same kind of male-female dichotomy, whether they're the same sex or not the same sex, because that's the way we are. That's the way we are. That's the way we're programmed. That's the way our chromosomes go together and make us work. We're hardwired that way. So even same-sex relationships tend to often polarize into the male-female structure anyhow. So how do we act? What's a formula that will allow us that if we do this thing, if we kind of use this prescription, how will it improve our relationships to where we're no longer struggling with the Mars and Venus problem, and that we're no longer struggling with the my needs versus your needs problem, because we fell in need with each other, some time ago. Well, to begin with, first of all, in this couple we're going to talk about, there must be some mutual love. If there's no mutual love and it's just 100% needs, then that's a contract. That's different. Go negotiate your contract, terminate your contract if it's not being met. It doesn't have really to do so much with relationship as it has to do with business. So we won't do that. So there's going to be some mutual love involved. I'm going to offer a culture-based application to you, and by calling it culture-based, that means that it's designed to work with the males and females as they are in our culture. Okay, so there's some cultural, components to it, but basically males and females will act this way in most of the cultures we're familiar with. Western culture kind of taking over the world anyway. Our culture's not so much different as they used to be. As you go around the globe, there were huge differences in culture. Now you have to really go out in the outback, somewhere to find cultures that are tremendously different. So there's some cultural component to it. Okay, now the problem is we need to decide whose responsibility it is to do what, when, and why. Okay, this disagreement over how each should act or do, is just not useful. It doesn't go anywhere. It never terminates. It never converges. You might feel better for a little while, but it always goes right back to where it was, is the problem. We have this issue that never does converge. Well, here's a way to have it all converge by using what is natural and fundamental inside you as a human being, in male and female. Okay, so let me just read these statements. Number one, okay, this is a suggestion for men. Okay, this is what the males need to do. 1, if she has a problem of any sort, for any reason, good or bad, clever or silly, it is your problem to solve by changing only what you do and say and think. You must not try in any way to change what she does, says, and thinks in reference to this problem. This is not about fixing her. It's about changing you. Okay? So if she has a problem, it's his problem to solve. You like that, huh? 2, if there is a serious argument or disagreement, I'm talking to the guys now, if there's a serious argument or disagreement, you are wrong, period. Do whatever you can, whatever it takes, to make it the way she wants it. 3, your job is to make her happy, period. To do that, you must not try to change her mind or her perception or her wants and wishes. Simply figure out how to be and act and feel the way that will make her feel as good as possible. This must be sincere. And remember, the only thing you may try to change is yourself. 4, why would you want to do this for her? Because you love her, and it is your primary responsibility in your relationship to make her happy, whatever that requires you to do. She remains entirely blameless always, and it's never her fault. There is no room for blame or fault within love. 5, always do, say, and be, and think what you think will make her happy. Leave no stone unturned. Nothing is off the table or off limits. Take great joy in the fact that your woman is happy, and she cannot find a single thing about you to complain about. You must make her think and feel that you are the perfect mate and have nothing about you that she would want to improve even a little bit. Okay, that's for the men. Ladies, and you're perhaps thinking this will be symmetric and the ladies will have a similar thing, but it's not true. It's not symmetric. It doesn't work if it's symmetric.
Huh.
Men and women are not symmetric. They're different. Ladies, 1, you must be reasonable but honest. Be yourself and communicate your wants and needs to your man. Do not tell him what you think he wants to hear. You must try to come to your needs and wants thoughtfully, with as little fear and ego as possible. Focus on what is of fundamental importance to you. Let the petty or small stuff go. He is trying to please you, and you must make that possible, though you do not have to make it easy. All issues between you are now solved, right? All you have to do, ladies, is be honest. Tell him the way you feel and think, and he's supposed to fix it or make you happy, period. Okay, now why would this seemingly one-sided process work? Because this forces the men to grow up and let go of fear and ego, to base their relationship on love. This will give the women the secure environment and the incentive they need to grow themselves, to let go of fear and ego, to base their relationship on love. That is, the men will eventually get back whatever quality love they're able to give. This process works best with the gender roles given because men rule the outside world of stuff, while women rule the inside world of relationship. Thus, the women will always do their part to grow themselves to become love if the men have what it takes to lead the process.
Wow.
You see, that's how it works. So, in other words, the men have to take the initiative, not the ladies. The women will come along. Once the women are in such a loving, giving relationship where their happiness is really what's important. It's not about the guy and what he wants. He has to grow up. He has to grow up and get rid of the ego and fear and beliefs. He gives. His job is just to love that woman and make her happy, period. Not if he thinks her wants and needs are silly, that's beside the point. It's her wants and needs, and because they're her wants and needs, they're important. And they're important just because they're hers, and that's what she wants. He doesn't get a veto or even a vote. He has to take care of his woman and make her happy. Now, you see, because the man has to lead, he's the leader in this, which is more natural to us as human beings. He leads. He has to overcome that first. And because she gets in this environment now that is safe, it's perfectly safe because whatever she does, however she does it, it's okay. It's good. He not only supports it, he feeds it. He tries to make her happy. With that kind of security, she will very quickly say, oh, I better do my part. I can't just have this guy doing this and I'm kind of goofing off, just, sucking all this stuff up and saying, oh, that's great. I got a slave now.
Yeah.
Women won't do that. Right. Women will feel responsible because their key thing in life is relationship.
Yeah.
They approach relationship with their intellect. Men approach the outside world with their intellect. Men stumble through relationship, however, it just happens to come and they don't understand it. It just happens and they do it. women do that with the outside world. They don't really care how the damn car works. They just want it to go when they press on it. See, they just kind of stumble through the process outside. So it's the way we're made differently. If we had switched it around and said, ladies, you have to take the rule, you would have a fair probability, not 100%, but some non-trivial number of the men would get to the point where they thought, wow, this is good. She's making me happy in whatever I want, and just kind of kick back and enjoy it. Because that's the outside world. You see, what she does is part of the outside world. They don't have that same responsibility and relationship that a female has.
Right.
That's the female's world. Her world's the inside world of relationship. That's what she does. She deals in relationship. That's why women say, 3 times more words in a day than men do? Because they're networking. It's all about relationship. It's about connections. It's what people think and feel. And, and the men look at that and say, you're talking to your girlfriend about her new teddy bear or something, and roll the eyes like that's ridiculous. But it's not. It's part of the networking. It's part of the, I'm okay, you're okay, we're all here, I'll help you, you help me. That's what women do. They build up networks, structures, nurturing. That's their thing. Men deal with the outside world. So the men wouldn't feel the same need to then turn around and become a working part of that process. They're more likely to say, ooh, feels good, let's not mess with it. Don't break, don't try to fix what isn't broken. Whereas the ladies, given that kind of security and that kind of love as opposed to need, they would feel necessary to earn it, to be worthy of it, to make sure that, they deserve that kind of treatment. And therefore, they would also become love.
Yeah.
So you see, it's the only way it works. It doesn't work any other way. The men have to take the initiative here. They have to decide, would they rather be right, or would they rather have a really great relationship with a woman? You see, if they're going to argue about being right, no, it's this way. No, that doesn't make any sense. If it's a matter of my needs versus your needs, if it's a matter of ego and fear, then they can't get there. You see, you'll never get there. It'll just be arguing and bickering and struggling, and I'm from Mars and you're from Venus, and we just don't see eye to eye, and it'll never change. The only way you can get a need-based relationship into a love-based relationship is if somebody decides to drop the needs and just act out of love. Okay, somebody has to initiate that. It just doesn't happen. What it does otherwise, it degenerates into a more need-based. And then you get unhappy because your needs aren't being met. You see, so to break that, somebody has to let go of the need-based interaction. The men are the natural leaders of the relationship. They have to be the one that leads it. It's not the woman's place to lead that. So that's why I'm hard. Excuse me. That's why I'm hard on the men to begin with. If there is a disagreement, she's right and you're wrong. Period. You see, it's not yours to fix her or inform her or change her mind. It's yours to make her happy. So if she says, I'd like the walls of my room painted, I'm tired of this old color, and you'd say, well, we just painted them a year ago. The paint's good, That would be the way the men from Mars would think, right? It's not practical. We don't want to paint it yet. There's a lot of work, and the paint's perfectly fine. But if that's what she wants, then that's what you do. Go get the paint and do it together. You see, make something positive out of it. Of course, dear, if you like the paint, if you like the room painted, I'd be glad to paint it for you. Let's paint it together on such and such. It'll turn out to be fun. It'll turn out to be good, you see, because now it's love-based rather than your need is for new paint. My need is to go take a nap. You see, now it's two different needs struggling. My need is to go fishing, or my need is to go work in a shop or do something else. You got needs competing with each other all the time. You have to get out of that.
Right.
But what happens, just like in a need-based relationship, it tends to disintegrate. It tends to run downhill in a spiral because the need versus need thing doesn't build. It's a high entropy thing. It disintegrates. If you break that with love reactions, it does just the opposite. It builds. The more positive results he sees in treating his woman as if she is the most important thing in his life and his whole reason for existing is to please her, then it gets better. Not only does he get a lot of good feedback from that, but then his wife tends to treat him in the same way. You see, so instead of this descending spiral of need versus need, it's an ascending spiral, getting better and better, of love begets love.
Yeah.
So it takes love to generate love. And that's the so that's the thing. The men need to lead, and they need to stop second guessing, or I don't want to paint the room because it doesn't make sense. That's not allowed. It's not about what makes sense to you. It's about what your woman wants. Do it. She's the most important person on the planet for you. You do anything for her, anything she wants, try anything that she would like you to do, any way she'd like you to be, you try to be it. And it's not just acting. If it's just acting and you're really need-based and you say, oh, I hate painting this damn room, but I'll do it anyway, because that doesn't work. It has to be real. So to begin with, men, you got to step up. You have to let the needs go, let the ego go. Realize that's the stuff that's making you unhappy. It shouldn't be that hard to let go of. Once you realize it's what's making you unhappy. It's what's poisoning your relationship. You're in charge. You're the leader. So let the ego and fear go. Let the beliefs go. And just love your woman, period. Okay? The rest of it will all take care of itself. So that's the thing. And if you do that, if your man can do that, okay, if he has what it takes to do that, then all the rest of it, you'll get into an ascending spiral. And in months, it'll take a while too, because at first, when the man starts doing this, the woman's thinking, he's just making this up. It's not real. In a month, this is going to wear off and it'll go right back to usual. She's not going to trust it. Trust has to be earned. So he may have to do this for 6 months just before she begins to trust that it's real and that it's honest. And he really will do anything she wants to make her happy. And once she gets that, then everything else will start to change in a hurry.
Wow. Well, Tom, this is, I think nothing short of revolutionary, because it gets to, again, the root of the issue. It's not about, as our society often does with so many things, focusing on the symptoms, but it's going to the root of the issue. So just, for us to understand better our genders, our roles, and how we each function in similar or different ways, and specifically here, the differences, is going to be so invaluable for so many people. And I do recommend for anyone in the audience who has a partner to definitely come back and watch this episode specifically with their partner, so that, there's that level playing field where they maybe understand where each one would be coming from and why, so that, again, there isn't sort of that manipulation by women to take advantage of the situation, or likewise, for the guys to feel like, maybe this is not going to work, or whatever the case may be. But if I may throw in too one more thing, I know for a lot of men who might be thinking, oh, this is just, too much for my ego and I just can't, handle it or whatever. We have to remember too that we do play in different lifetimes and in these different virtual realities, all of the sexes, right? So, or both sexes, right? So it's not that we're getting short-ended if we are the men in this particular lifetime or something, or vice versa.
Yeah. If you have a consideration or a fear that you might get short-ended, you already aren't quite ready for the process.
Good point.
If you've got this idea that, well, I don't know, what if I get taken advantage of? See, that's just fear talking. That's fear. So if you are fear-based to the point that you can't do this, you've got so much fear and ego that you can't let go of it enough to actually give, to love. It's all about you and your fear and your needs. Well, then you're incapable of loving enough to make a relationship work. Well, that's a pretty serious point to come to, right? You're incapable of loving enough to make a relationship work. What that means is all the relationships you have, it's not the other person that you're blaming. Again, we talk about blaming others, for our own, all your relationships will be that way. It's not that this woman is a problem. If I had some other woman, it would be better. It's just that if you don't have the capacity to love, if all you have is the capacity is to fear and have needs, then you will never have a relationship that is wonderful and fantastic like you will get in this, if you have the ability to do it. So if the idea is, it looks like the women get all the good stuff and, I have to do all the work, that's fear. That's ego. That's already not a good sign that you have what it takes to love. And many of us have a hard time loving because loving is giving.
Yes.
It's not about getting. It's not, well, okay, I'll do this for, 3 months and see what I get.
Yeah.
That's not it. That's false. And if a man tries that, his woman will know it in an instant that he's acting, that he's acting in petition. It's like, I'll do this for you if you do that for me. Well, that's the way you started the relationship. That's need-based. See, that's null and void. But I will say that I have suggested this process. I have used it myself, and I suggested this process to probably a half a dozen different people. Mm-hmm. And if they follow it, and if they can do it, it always works. It always ends up with a love-based relationship rather than a fear and need-based relationship. And the man and woman are very, very pleased both with it. It works very well. Mm-hmm. It will produce results. It will take the relationship and drag it out of the need-fear interaction into a love-based interaction. And that does feed on itself. It grows. So this will work. It's just whether or not you have the quality or the stuff to make it work. And where it starts is with the men. Yeah. The men have to initiate it. It's not something that the women can initiate as easily. Mm-hmm. Now, a woman could initiate this. She said, okay, I'm going to do that. But there would be some probability that the guy would just think, don't try to fix what's not broken. This is great. I like it. And he wouldn't have the same sort of need to make the relationship respond, to what's going on, because that's not the way men are put together. They're not put together to focus on relationship. That's not their thing. Mm-hmm. We're taking the strengths of both and how they work and how they interact and the way the men and women are at the core level and using that to create a situation that will then become positive feedback in feeding itself to getting better.
Right. And I like how you put that it's taking the strengths of both and using them rather than,
yes.
trying to be, as you mentioned before, it's not going to be a reciprocal list because that wouldn't make it work. But it's taking the strengths. That would make it fail.
Yeah. See, and that's what we do. All the counselors out there, they want to be negotiators.
Yes.
Well, if you're a negotiator and you're going to negotiate stuff, all right, guy, you're going to have to pick up the dirty socks and, help with that chores. And lady, you need to do that. If it's going to be a negotiation, all you're doing is trying to reinstate and heal the need-based thing that you had in the first place. That won't work. It'll work temporarily. Okay, you get everybody excited, enthused about doing it, and maybe for 6 months or something, it'll feel better, and it'll go right back to the way it was, because a need-based relationship is a need-based relationship and really doesn't have anything at all to do with love.
Yeah.
A love-based relationship works. A need-based relationship is a contract that works for a while, and then people change. Yes. Needs change. Feelings change. All sorts of things change. Women grow older. Men grow older. Things are different. You don't have the same glue and the same stuff there you had 20 years earlier. You see, it was different. Well, when you get to those differences, mostly it just falls apart because it was need-based based on these criteria. And our society is full of the failures of male-female relationships, and that's because there's very little love in most of those relationships. They're mostly need-based, and you've got to stop. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. You have to fix that, not negotiate another need-based contract.
Right.
All right, the old contract where, she was the young, 20-year-old, hot body and whatever, so he was willing to give up a lot for that and that, but now she's 45 and, he's got girlfriends at the office and so we need a whole new contract. So you go to a marriage counselor, they try to give you a new contract. Doesn't work long term. It's a short-term thing. It degenerates. So the only way I know to have a really good relationship is to have that relationship based on love. Mm-hmm. It's not based on love, then it's like any other contract. You might as well just make a list of things you want each other to do and see if you can fulfill the contract, but mostly you can't even do that, you see. Yeah. Because if it's all about you, then you don't want to do the stuff that's about them. You don't want to do the stuff they need. You just want them to do the stuff you need. You see, it's the doing the stuff they need becomes an imposition.
Yes.
And if you do things as an imposition, it leads to resentment. It doesn't work. It just degenerates. It goes to hell in a handbasket, and it's doomed to failure. So there it is. You have the option to either spend the rest of your life getting by,
Yeah.
being at least friends and friendly and agreeing not to shout and holler and get angry, but not really love-based. You just kind of make an accommodation to get by because it's better to have somebody to get by with than it is to get by yourself, you see, that sort of thing. Or you have to figure out a way to make your relationship love-based. And this is the only way I know that has a chance, the best chance of
Right.
work.
Well, again, because it's love-based, and at our essence, we are love. The whole system wants to evolve towards the best efficiency and lowest entropy and love. And it would just, when somebody really starts to put this all together on a hard level, it does make sense. So that is really, really very, very valuable to hear, Tom. Now, if we do apply this, I could see right away, of course, our divorce rates or separation rates would drastically, drastically drop. And of course, that would be wonderful for many people as the whole separation or divorce or breakup process. It just causes so many people so much pain, trauma, emotional scars for life of healing and things like that. But not to mention health problems. But when should people maybe know, for example, that another partner or another path is a better one for them? Because I know in our society so often people do, while a lot are divorcing and separating left, right, and center, others are staying for too long and I say overstaying their welcome in a relationship that was supposed to evolve and grow, but is now devolving and dying pretty much.
Right. Well, you have to know, you know, what's that song say? You have to know when to hold them and when to fold them, right? You have to know when, you have to be able to assess the potential.
Right.
Okay. You have to be able to, what is the potential here? Okay. Maybe it's not good now, but that doesn't mean it can't be. This could start a whole new thing. You see, it could change. This will change. If this takes root, if the man can actually do this, the change in the relationship will be dramatic, very dramatic. This is not like, well, we're just going to learn to get along better. This will be a dramatic, fundamental change in the nature of the relationship. So you look at the potential, and from a man's point of view, he looks at the potential, of his woman and her needs and wants and whatever, and he can say, I can do this. I can do this. I really do love her. I can do this. I can make her the most important thing in my life. It'll be about her, not about me. And he has to, he has to be able to get to that point. And he has to trust her that she will grow with it. She's not just going to sit back and say, oh, I've always wanted a slave. What I want you to do now is, mop the floor. That will make me happy. She's not going to do that sort of thing. And he has to trust her that she will grow up and that it will change her. And he has to be willing to take that chance. There's nothing for sure in life. You have to be willing to risk. It's all about risk. Well, you look at the potential and say, what's the potential payoff? I could be with this woman and we could be in love and it could be the most amazing relationship ever. Because eventually she'll be treating him the same way. She will live for him. She will live in order to meet his needs and his wants. You see, it'll be all about him. And for him, it's all about her. And when you both get into that, then the relationship is really, really good. So he can think that's where it could go. It's worth the try. Or he may look at the potential, or she may look at the potential and say, long, long, long shot. I don't think it really has the potential to go there. I'm probably better to go someplace else. When it gets to the point that either the other person says, oh, no way I'm going to do that, well, then you can, if it's comfortable enough to just stay in the situation, you can do that. But if you're really looking for something more, then you ought to go find it somewhere else, because people have their limitations.
Right.
Many people have the gumption to grow beyond their limitations. Some don't. So I don't think you should get stuck in a relationship that isn't working.
Right.
It should be working. Now, if you're a woman, let's say, and your guy won't take the initiative or doesn't have it in him to take the initiative, you may talk to him if you still think he has potential and say, well, listen, let's do it the opposite way round then. I'm going to start. I'm going to break the cycle of need, and I'm going to start this. But I'm going to need you to come back and pick it up and grow with it, not just use it. And if he understands that, then there's a fair probability he'll do that, that he would do that. He would be aware that he needs to do his part. But in any case, love is not, it doesn't take two people to love. Okay? It only takes one. Love is a singular thing. It's something given. It's not something bargained with. So the idea that I'll do this if you do that is not love. We're back to needs and bargaining again.
Yeah.
So the idea is you do it with the idea of I'll deal with whatever happens. That's how you have to go into it. You have to be open-ended. It can't be, well, I'll try it for a month and see what happens. It has, because that's not real. Now you're acting. Mm-hmm. You have to say, I can do this and I'll do it and we'll see what happens. With the idea that, what happens? New things, new choices.
Yeah.
Right? You can always make new choices. And the whole thing boils down to then both people are where they are because that's where they want to be. You don't need rules. You don't need the contract. You don't need any of that because the reason that you're there is because that's where you'd rather be more than any place else. And the reason he's there is because that's where he'd rather be more than any place else. So there's a very strong security that's built up that makes this thing, once it gets working, hard to break.
Yeah.
You see, it lasts. It works really, really well. But my point was that it only takes one to love. Love is about someone else. If you look at your thought and your feeling, and if it's about you, if it's about what you have to have, your non-negotiable demand, I have to be at least get this, I have to have this kind of attitude. Mm-hmm. That's not love. If it's about what can I do for somebody else, if it's other-centered, that's love. Okay, so it's an easy way to tell. It has to be about somebody else or it's really not love. So you can love somebody and they may or may not be capable of it. And that may be okay with you. You see, it's not like, well, if they don't join in, that'll be terrible and I'll have to run away. Maybe, maybe not. That's just neat. You may just enjoy being love and giving. And you may get enough out of giving that even if you never get back, it's okay. It's still fun. It's still good. You love it. Now, if as soon as you don't get back, that's an ego thing. Yes. Oh, no, I gave and didn't get back. Uh-oh. Well, now you're back to you do mine and I'll do yours, you see. That's not good. So it can happen that one person gets much into giving and the other one doesn't. And it can happen that that's just perfectly all right. That's not a problem because it's not about getting. If you really, truly get into giving, the giving is where your reward is, not in the getting. It's not that you get things that makes it wonderful. It's that you give things that make it wonderful. So in that sense, it doesn't really matter that much what your significant other does. If you're really committed to living in love, you still will have a good relationship. It'll still be fun. You'll enjoy giving to that person and making them very, very happy. When they smile and laugh, you smile too, just because you've made them happy. And the fact that they don't rub your feet at night and you'd really like that, but they just aren't into that, doesn't matter. It's not about you and your feet. You can get by. You can get by without your feet being rubbed. Go rub your own feet. Go get somebody at the massage parlor to rub your feet. Get by some other way. You just drop that off. You don't care because you're really involved in giving, not getting.
Yes.
So it's easy to take this and turn it around into another deal. You don't want to do that. You don't want to make this into another deal. It's something you commit to. So for the female, if it's done this way, what she commits to is just being honest, being open, just telling her guy what makes her happy and what doesn't. And he commits to love, to giving her whatever it is she wants. She is the most important person in his world. His world just circulates around her happiness. And that's about her, you see, not about him. It can't be about him. It has to be just about her. And she can do the same. She could just give to him. Her world could circulate around him being happy, and that may just be enough. May just be enough for the guy. Or it may turn out that, let's say, the guy or the woman is abusive.
Yeah.
Let's say they take that, and rather than even just laying back and soaking it up because they love the slave, they might get the idea of, oh, you'll do that? Well, how about this? And how about this? How about if you do that hanging by, one leg, or what if I beat you and you smile? That sort of thing. Yeah. If it gets abusive, then it's time to leave. You see, it's time to go. You can't give to abuse.
Yes.
Well, you can give to abuse, but it's not healthy.
That's right.
Now, if you just make somebody happy and they never do anything in return, that's okay. You don't need anything in return. You get happy from making them happy. But if they turn around and smack you because you're trying to make them happy, it's time to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
That is unhealthy. You can't feed a monster, you know, you can't do that. So at the very worst is that you get abused. That's your ticket to leave. The very best is that you both get into giving and being loved to each other. But the middle ground is that one of you can be love to the other. And that's really good too. That's not a bad place to be. That's much better than the need-based relationship that most people have now.
Yes.
So remember, it only really takes one to love. It's not like this is a deal. This is just a personal thing that you commit to do. That's kind of an important thing, because otherwise they take it right away and say, okay, I'll do this if you do that.
Yeah.
You're not doing it quite as much as I like. I'm making you happier than you're making me, you know, so I'm getting the short end of the stick. And see, that's all right back to it's all about me, and it's all need-based, and the whole thing is an act. It's not real.
Right.
It has to be real.
Well, again, so refreshing, Tom, because our society, even at the best of times, is so used to fostering and saying, oh, it's a give-take, it's a balance, give-take, give-take, give-take. And so many of us have those beliefs so deeply ingrained, whereas you just kind of, you know, shed such a new light on things to release us from those beliefs. And again, for us to just keep shedding the fears and the egos, which ultimately, I mean, benefits us, benefits our partners, benefits the whole system, which is what it's all about.
Yeah,
So
it's not a give-take, it's a give-give.
Yeah.
It's just a give. Forget about the take. Take's the problem.
Yeah.
Take, you just need to forget about it. It's just a give. And then it works really well.
Now, if we shift also, I know we've touched upon already in at the beginning about parent-child relationships and, of course, not getting caught in I know what's best for you. And I know we also mentioned this in our other episode, which I will have also links to for anyone who may have missed that. But one other relationship that seems to be very challenging for people deals with actually nature and going back to the aspect of controlling it. And the specific example is, in our society, we have a lot of people wanting to control specifically not just animals, which we talked about in the food and the farming and the eating things, but specifically viruses, of course not technically living the way our biology explains it, but bacteria, fungi, and of course all the insects. We have all the bug sprays, all the different chemical controls, all the antibiotics, and we keep waging war on our bodies and on our environment. Is there a better way to live?
Yes. Matter of fact, it's a requirement that we eventually find a better way to live. The idea that we can do what we want because we're bigger and stronger, that's what you call a bully.
Yeah.
We tend to be the bullies in our environment. We bully everything else. We make everything suit us. That's just arrogance. You have to see ourselves as part of an ecosystem. We're another animal living in an ecosystem, and we have to do that responsibly. We have to realize that what we touch and the things that we have the capacity to affect a lot of other things. You know, look at the bugs. They don't have a whole lot of capacity to affect a whole lot other than just their own little niche. That's all they can do. We can affect everybody's niche. We can affect all sorts of things in this ecosystem besides our own little piece of it. You know, when we dirty our own nest, we don't only dirty our own nest, you know, we dirty everybody's nest at the same time. So that increased power requires increased responsibility. And as we see of ourselves, one is not the master of critters, but rather just another critter sharing the planet, and that we have responsibility, special responsibility because of our special abilities, and that we need to, you know, nurture the planet. We need to preserve it. We need to make sure that we don't run it into the ground. We don't upset ecological things, that we try to live with it as, I don't know, as lovingly, right? It's about love, right? Yeah. It's not about what you can take. It's not the give and take, because if it's give and take, the focus slides off of give onto take, and then it's about the take and take. You know, what can you take? It's the same thing. What can you take out of a relationship? What can you take out of the relationship with the earth? What can you take out of the relationship with the other animals? You know, and if it's all about take, then it becomes dysfunctional and it damages yourself. You're making wrong choices. Remember, the way you grow up and become love is to make good choices. This idea of you beat on your chest and say, I'm the master of all the critters and I'll take as much as I like and who's going to stop me? That's called a wrong choice and it leads to de-evolution. So that's not a good, it's not one of those choices that you would make that, leads to evolution. So if we make wrong choices, we have to suffer the consequences of those wrong choices. There is a time to pay back. And that will, that's the problem. All these wrong choices look like they're good deals for us in the short term, but they hurt ourselves and everything in the long term. It's short-term gain, long-term loss. Well, what's important is long-term gain for everybody. So again, it needs to be love-based. It needs to be caring. You need to have respect for other critters. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't slap a mosquito and squish him as he's trying to drink your blood. It just means that you don't go out of your way to put yourself in situations where you need to kill things. You try to avoid that sort of thing. But if, you have a house and a rattlesnake sneaks in through the back door and you've got young children toddling around, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to get rid of the damn snake, right? You're not going to say, oh, he's got as much right to be here as I do. No, you get rid of the snake. You protect your children. I'm not saying that you should be an idiot, to do these things. Being based in love doesn't make you stupid. Yeah. You still have a brain and you can still make choices. There are times and places, in my house, I tried to get bugs outside that get trapped, when a wasp is on the window and he's flying up and down the window, or even a fly. I help him and I put him outside. But now, if he stings somebody, I'll smack him and squish him on the spot, and there's no regrets. You deal with what you have to deal with in the way you have to deal with it. Again, that's like you don't kill critters just because it pleases you, just because it makes you feel good. That's not a good thing to do. Well, you don't kill bugs either just because it makes you feel good. Now, if they're doing something, let's say they're moths, they've gotten into your pantry and all of your dry goods are now useless because they're all full of little moth larvae and you have to throw it all out. Well, kill some moths, Don't go in and spray DDT in your pantry. That would be like shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
But solve the moth problem and then be more watchful on the front end not to let it get that far out of hand again, so you don't have to go around and kill 100 moths. You just pick out the ones that come packaged in the food that you buy from that store and you get them out before it gets that far. So again, use your brain. This is not saying that you have to do things that are foolish. People always bring up the idea of, oh, you're love-based. That means anybody can do anything to you, and you say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and roll over on your back, and that's terrible. No, love-based doesn't mean you're a pacifist. You can stand up for what you believe in. You can fight if you're love-based. You just have to be careful as why. Why are you fighting? Why are you going to get violent here? If there's somebody running around in your neighborhood doing terrible things, perhaps it's your obligation to stop it if you know how, and that may require force. You see, it's not that you just turn the other cheek and, oh, yes, you want to rob me, that's okay. Here's the keys to my car. That's being foolish. So, people tend to, in order to put it down, they put it in this category of being kind of the foolish pacifist that won't protect his own children. Well, that's silly. You have to use your interested. Why do you want to do what you want to do? That's the important thing, not doing it. You may kill the mosquitoes or not. You may fight a war or not. You may be violent or not. The action isn't the key. The key here is the intent. What's behind the intent? If you're being violent to protect your children from somebody who would abuse them or do something to them, then violence is called for. Be as violent as you need to be to do what you have to do. You see, it's why you're doing it. If you're being violent because you're bigger than they are, and you know that you can beat them and get away with it, then that's wrong. You see, so that's the difference.
And I think, though, and this is definitely going to help a lot of people understand and gauge where to sort of fit into things. But I do feel that, unfortunately, or as we stand today, our society and our human family probably won't be quite mature or spiritually ready yet to decide when, because I know a lot of people, for example, with the bug issue, it's, kill before you get bitten. So it's, again, the driving intent is always surrounding fear rather than trying to understand these species and working with them. Not to mention, too, that I do think that our environment reflects, again, back to us. So if you have a moth infestation, for example, where might you be infested, with some kind of, I don't know, thoughts, ideas, or something. So definitely lots to think about and consider when it comes to this, and not an easy topic.
No, but you just have to, if it gets easier, the more you do it, the more obvious it gets. So I
Yes.
wouldn't be daunted by not knowing the answer.
Yes.
You don't have to know the answer to get started. Just do it.
Yes.
The answers will become more clear later. This idea that I can't start because I don't know
Yes.
how. I don't know all the answers yet. And because I can't answer all the questions, I won't start at all.
Right.
That's a fallacy. That needs to change. You need to just say, I'll do it. I'll do the best I can, and I'll learn as I go. And you eventually will learn. It's not hard to trap a wasp against the window. You just take a water glass, slip over top of it, slide an envelope or something on the other side, take them outside and let them free.
Exactly.
It takes a few seconds, and you don't have to kill them.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they are a threat. Maybe they would sting your children. Maybe there's somebody that has an allergy or something, but you can't kill all the bees in the world. So you just, you think about it.
Yeah.
And you say, well, here's time when I should stand up and be strong. Here's a time when I should sit down and be quiet. Yeah. Here's a time when I should turn the other cheek. Here's the time when I should fight back. You see, those are all good options in certain places and bad options in others. You get better at making the choices the more you play with it. Just be open to being wrong. Once you have to do something, don't then just justify it. See, that's what if you let your intellect get in charge, you maybe smack somebody and you really didn't have to. There were other choices that you had, and that comes to you later. And instead of justifying it, they deserved it anyway, you see, and then you justify it and go on. That's wrong. You have to learn. Yes. Your whole life ought to be a constant learning process so that you look at everything that happens and how it happens and why it happens, and if you could have done something better, and then learn from it. So you have to think all these choices you have are learning opportunities to grow up. It's not you do something, then you justify it because that makes you feel good. See, that's ego in charge. Yeah. So if you find yourself doing that, recognize it, cut it out, try to do better. It's a long, iterative process of doing just a little bit better each time.
Yes.
So don't not do it because it sounds too daunting. Just start someplace.
Yes.
And work it out as you go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And as we start to wrap up, even though I know there's so many other topics that we could be touching upon, do you have, Tom, some kind of closing comments for anybody who has, is familiar with your work in theory and is also now starting to also put it into practice, how to really make the best of these applications without getting lost in their intellect and getting, again, lost in making beliefs out of, anything that you share, but rather really making it their own and putting it into practice daily?
Yes, try not to make it an intellectual process. Intellectual processes are almost always very suspect. Now, the intellect can be a tool. You don't have to, not be an intellect. You don't need a lobotomy, to get by. Your intellect can be very valuable for helping you point directions and see things. But don't make the process, the solution, be an intellectual process or solution. The solution has to be at the being level. It can't be at the intellectual level. You can't say, okay, I understand that. All you have to do is act and interact through love. Gee, that's simple. I got it. All right, on to the next problem. That's a big difference between that and actually becoming love. So the way that you need to approach this isn't intellectually. Approach it at the being level. What that means is be aware of every instance in your life where you get what you might call a negative emotion, a negative feeling. Someplace where you feel stress, where you feel like this is not the way you wanted it to be. Like, you feel anger, you feel envious, you feel, any of these things we recognize as not good emotions. And as soon as you feel that, say, I'm feeling a little anger here. Why? Where did that anger come from? Why does this make me angry? Why does this particular thing set me off like that? You'll find a fear.
Yeah.
Almost always. You'll find a fear at the origin of that anger, that anxiety, that all of that negative stuff. Look at the fear, have the courage to deal with it, and get rid of the fear. Okay, just get rid of the fear. So if you do that, suddenly you'll go from, I don't fear anything, to, oh my God, I'm driven by my fears. Look, everything I do is fear-based, to being overwhelmed by it, to where you start making progress, to where you start getting rid of them. As you get rid of them, all that negative stuff stops dropping out of your life. Your life gets more and more pleasant, and you get more and more strength to get rid of more and more fear. You know, again, you get in a positive reinforcing cycle. It gets easier and easier. To begin with, you tend to be overwhelmed. It's just too much. I didn't realize all this fear. I'll never get to the bottom of it. You know, it's not working. Just hang tough. Just keep working at it. It's not that you have to suddenly become perfect. It's that you need to just keep chipping away at it. That's good enough. That's called intent. If your intent is good, you will eventually get there, and you will live a life that is full of joy and happiness, good relationships. You have better relationships with your children. You know, the same things that we were talking about, husband and wife, work with children too. Love them. Don't try to manipulate them and make them be the way you want them. Just love them. Now, you have to take care of them, and you have to use restraints. You can't let your 3-year-old go play in the street. You know, again, it doesn't make you stupid to be love-based. Mm-hmm. You have to constrain them. You have to correct them. But do it from love, not from frustration, not from anger, not from, it's about me. How dare you do that to me? You're annoying me. I have something else I'd rather do, and now I have to do this. You see, and it's me, 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 me. But it's about them. What can I do to help them, that I can make this easier for them, that they will see that it's good to be truthful rather than to lie? You know, what is it that I can do that helps them? Not angry with them because they did something that wasn't the way you wanted them to do it. Yeah. See, it's just a whole different approach. So it's not just, you know, this whole thing comes from the fundamental theory that love is the answer. So it boils down, well, how do you apply that to relationship? How do you apply that to raising your children? How do you apply that to the food you eat? How do you apply that to, you know, doesn't matter what it is. The same thing works because that is the way you evolve. You know, that's the right thing. Love is the answer. See, and you apply it however you can, a little bit at a time. Pick those things that are negative because they're easy to find. All of us have these little negative, annoying things that happen. Pick that negative thing. Find the fear. Where's the fear? Bring it up. Deal with it. Accept it. Say, if that fear happens, if what I'm afraid of happens, I can deal with it. I'll accept it. I'll live with it. That pulls the teeth out of the fear once you accept it. So that's how you should go about doing it. Not through some kind of intellectual purge of what you think your fears are. Do it out of the being level of your experience. It has to be your experience or it's not your truth. If you're just thinking about it, it's not your truth. Yeah. It has to be part of your experience. Be it. Don't think about it or talk about it. Just be it. And if you be it badly, okay, that's all right. If your intents are right, you will end up being it very well eventually. So it always works. That's the good thing about this. It always works. If you do this, you will end up with a very lovely life. Things will happen that are very nice. You and your relationships with your kids, your spouse, all of this stuff will get good, get better, and stay that way. And suddenly you'll live, you know, a life of joy. Things will be great. And you'll wonder how you could ever have lived any other way because it'll then seem so easy, so straightforward, so simple. Right now it seems so hard, so far away, and so complicated. That's all your fear and beliefs getting in the way. Just do it. You know, just go do it, and it will get easier in time. You may have to tough it out for the first 3 months, or 4 months, or 6 months. Tough it out. The rest of your life is going to be your reward. So that's kind of my pep talk. You know, just go do it. Do it from the being level, not from the intellectual level. Let your everyday life be what you apply it to. Yeah. Stop trying to fix anybody else but yourself. Don't blame anybody else but yourself. You are the one that are in charge of you. And if you're unhappy, it's your problem, you see. You need to change you so that you're not unhappy. It's not I'm unhappy because of, and then list all of the things that have made you unhappy. See, that's just the ego trying to make itself feel better. That will never make you happy. That'll just give you more and more to complain about, which makes you more and more miserable, which makes you act in a way that other people react negative to you, which makes you more and more miserable. And, it just doesn't go anywhere good.
Yeah, no, as we see. Well, Tom, thank you so, so very much for inspiring each one of us to really rise up to our highest potential, accountability, responsibility, and most importantly, love. Really to remember ourselves as love and to act as love in all that we are and all that we do. So thank you so very much for everything that you've shared. It's been, again, as I can imagine, for each person that it's going to be touching their life, it's so valuable in so many different ways. So thank you for your time.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure. It's been fun.
Oh, thank you. And likewise. And for anybody who would like to further continue to understand, apply, or enjoy Tom's work, definitely start with his website, my-big-toe.com. There's also mbtevents.com. Lots and lots of YouTube videos on Tom's channel. And also just if you Google or put into the YouTube search Tom Campbell, you will find lots and lots of free lectures. This is what, again, is always so amazing about Tom, is that he is so giving of his time and just truly works for the betterment of humanity in so many different ways, and love-based in what you are and how you act and such. And one last but not least, of course, event that's coming up is you have an event in Spain coming up in March, correct?
I do have an event in Spain in March. It's going to be a 3-day event. Never done one like this before. It's not going to be me lecturing, because that's already all over YouTube. It's going to be talking about just what we talked about today. It's going to be about applications. So there's an agenda out that's like we have done here for an evening. It's done like that, except for 3 days worth of topics that have to do with how do I apply this to my life, and we're just going to talk about those for 3 days and see what happens. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of interaction between the audience and me. It's not going to be mainly lecture, but a discussion, a 3-day discussion on how to apply love to your life.
Well, it sounds wonderful. And perhaps even what else will be very enticing for many is that it is taking place in the beautiful south of Spain, Andalusia, and that is March 8th to March 10th, 2013, for anybody who would like more information with regards to that. And there's also, of course, for anybody who has questions with regards to these applications or anything else, Tom's forum, which you could access through mybigtoe.com. So thank you, Tom, again, so very much for this. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and until next time.